Come to Helmuth Ford, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty.
Hi, this is Stacy from Shuttler Insurance Services. Come see me on the east side of the square in Sigourney for all your insurance needs.
Southern Iowa, it's rodeo time. The 2025 Albia Chamber Main Street Rodeo returns Saturday, June 7th at the Monroe County Fairgrounds. Rogue Rodeo brings us 8 thrilling events, a bull ride showdown, comedy from Ronald Burton, and the dazzling Diamonds and Dust performance. Gates open at 5 p.m. for food, fun, and high-energy action await. Tickets on sale now at albiachambermainstreet.org. Adults $15 in advance, $20 at the gate. Kids only $10. Saddle up for a night of tradition and thrill. Don't miss it.
Jace Race 2025 is Saturday, June 7th at the North Mahaska Junior Senior High School in New Sharon. The 5K starts at 8 a.m., followed by the 1 mile fun run. To sign up, use the links on the North Mahaska Education Foundation's Facebook page. Pre-registration guarantees you a t-shirt, but you can also sign up the day of the race. There will be some giveaways and first-place prizes. In memory of Jace Carrico, who passed in 2008, the Carrico family appreciates the community's support. Neil.
Hey, man, what's up?
You want to do some radio?
Radio? I haven't been on the radio for a long time. But yeah, that'd be cool. Cool.
Skunk River Radio. Let's get skunky.
Clark.
Here.
Conrad.
Present.
McLaughlin. Present.
Okay, approval or amendment of tentative agenda. If not, I entertain a motion to approve it.
I'll make a motion to approve the tentative agenda.
Second.
Rosebaker.
Yes.
Lentz.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Conrad.
Yes.
McLaughlin. Yes.
Consent agenda. All items under the consent agenda will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a request is made prior to voting.
Can we take vote on item B separately, please?
Okay.
Make a motion we approve consent agenda items A, C, D, E, F, G, and H.
Bid second. Rosebaker.
Yes.
Lentz.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Conrad.
Yes.
McLaughlin. Yes.
Make a motion we approve consent agenda item B.
Second. Rosebaker.
Yes.
Lentz.
Abstain.
Schultz.
Abstain.
Clark.
Yes.
Conrad.
Yes.
McLaughlin. Yes.
That one didn't pass.
Okay, public hearing. 6 o'clock p.m. Public hearing on budget estimate for fiscal year July 1, 2025 through July 30, 2026. The proposed tax asking is 16.01045 per 1,000 of taxable valuation of regular property. The agricultural tax asking would remain the same at 3.00375 per 1,000 taxable valuation on ag land property.
Make a motion we open public hearing.
Second.
Rosebaker.
Yes.
Lentz.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Conrad.
Yes.
McLaughlin. Yes.
The public hearing was published in the Sigourney News Review on May 7th, 2025, as required by law. As for discussion on the purpose of the public hearing budget estimate for fiscal year July 1, 2025 through June 30, 2026, I'm asking for any input from the public and or the council. Hearing none, can we have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'd make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Rosebaker.
Yes.
Lentz.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Conrad.
Yes.
McLaughlin. Yes.
Okay. we do both public hearings before we do the approval?
Well, we need to approve the first resolution.
Approve the first one first? Okay. Possible approval of resolution number 2025-05-01 for budget estimate July 1, 2025 to June 30, 2026.
That's the second one. I make a motion we approve proposed resolution 2025-0501 to adopt the city budget 25-26.
Second.
Oathmaker,
Yes.
Lentz,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Conrad,
Yes.
McLaughlin.
Yes.
Sorry about that, Ed. It's written on my sheet for the public hearing number 1. Okay, public hearing, amendment of current city budget for fiscal year 2025. That is, no, it's not approved. Possible approval of
Make a motion we open the public hearing on the amendment of the current city budget for fiscal year 2025.
Thank you, Ed.
Second.
Oathmaker,
Yes.
Lentz,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yeah.
Clark,
Yes.
Conrad,
Yes.
McLaughlin.
Yes.
Okay, this is the time and place for the public hearing on budget estimate for fiscal year July 1, 2025 to July 30, 2026. We've had the motion to open it. The public hearing was published in the Sigourney News Review on May 7th, 2025, as required by law. As for discussion the purpose of the public hearing, budget estimate for fiscal year July 1, 2025 through June 30, 2026.
Sorry, you're reading the wrong one.
What's the,
We've done
I'm
the
sorry.
estimated,
I'm sorry.
we're on to
I have the
the
wrong one.
amendment.
Okay. Again, the public hearing was published in Sigourney News Review, discuss the purpose of the public hearing budget estimate for fiscal year July 1, 2025 to June 30, 2026. Is there any input from the public and/or council?
We're on the public hearing for the amendment, correct?
yes,
Yes.
Not the estimated.
the
Right.
amendment.
24 to 25.
And really the only change that I put in here was the insurance money that we're getting. I upped that so that it would match straight across the board, because we're getting it in this year.
In this fiscal year?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know what the next step is, but before we make sure we're on the right page,
Any other input?
make them
Motion to close the public hearing?
so moved.
Second.
Oathmaker,
Yes.
Lentz,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Conrad,
Yes.
McLaughlin.
Yes.
Okay, now we'll do the possible approval of Resolution 2025-05-02, budget amendment for fiscal year 2025.
I would make a motion, we approve the resolution number 2025-5-02 for the proposed budget amendment for fiscal year ending June 30, 2025.
Second.
Oathmaker,
Yes.
Lentz,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Conrad,
Yes.
McLaughlin.
Yes.
Additional city business, discussion and possible approval of resolution number 2025-05-06 to participate in the Keokuk County Multi-Jurisdictional Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan. We were requested by the Emergency Management Commission to vote on this, to approve it, so it's in the minutes, so they have it on record.
I thought we talked last time that we wanted him to come and explain what this was.
This is something totally different than what was the last time. This is the hazardous plan for Keokuk County, like FEMA. If we were to have tornadoes, high winds, whatever come through, then we would be able to get money from FEMA for repairs. The other thing was sponsoring families. This has nothing to do with that. This is totally separate.
And we've approved this in the past, but they want it in the minutes of the council meeting, so they asked for us to approve it again.
What?
So I entertain a motion to approve resolution 2025-05-06.
Make a motion that we approve resolution number 2025-05-06, participating Keokuk County multi-jurisdiction, multi-hazard mitigation plan.
Second.
Baker,
Yes.
Lentz,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Conrad,
Yes.
McGough.
Yes.
Next, discussion possible approval of additional invoice for H&M Consulting for the new city website.
Did you guys all look at this and his explanations of what the additional charges were?
Yeah.
You looked over it?
It made sense to me.
So, we started this process back in, was it late 2023,
A long time.
right?
Late
And
2023 we started.
he quoted us like 70 hours. Well, he, because of the lack of us getting him the information, he had an additional 29 hours, plus some of the back-end fees to house the minutes, the codes. So he is asking, it was 42,
It's on the last page, I think he's got the others list.
so 4210 for him, and then the 200 is going to be a recurring fee for him to help us keep the codes up to date, minutes up to date, if we need any trainings. Basically just to be there for support if we need it.
And that's reasonable to you,
It is to me, yes.
That's a month.
The
The recurring
$200
fee.
is just a month.
Yeah, the recurring.
The 4,200 is the final, his final fee for setting up the website and getting it live.
And where does that money come
I have it coming from, lost.
You said it came from Boston, right? I didn't hear you.
Yep.
Okay. So I would make a motion that we approve the additional invoice from H&M Consulting for the new city website.
Second.
Baker,
Yes.
Lentz,
from? Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Conrad,
Yes.
McLaughlin.
Yes.
Next, discussion of possible approval of resolution number 2025-05-07, temporary closing of downtown streets during the annual July 4th celebration.
Do you have any input on it? I mean, nothing's really changed. I've added a couple of the things, like the wiffle ball tournament, that was new. But as far as the streets, it's still the square, like it always is, the beard gardens in between the alley of, Shetler Insurance, and then whoever owns that alley right there.
There's no change. to
No
the space.
changes, no.
Are we closing the street between the town hall, whatever that park's called?
City Park?
Town Square Park?
Is that
Um,
the Jefferson Street, East Elm, and East Mary? No,
Didn't you just say yes?
I think so.
That's what it's called.
it's all the same? Yeah, I didn't change any, everything is the same.
Okay, I just want to make, because I think there was just concern about kids walking from the park to the square, so I just want to make sure I wasn't there, so I couldn't remember. But otherwise, nope. It's-
And I did make that change that you sent me, so we're good.
So I move we approve resolution 2025-05-07, temporary closing of downtown streets during the 4th of July celebration.
Baker,
Yes.
Lentz,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Conrad,
Yes.
McLaughlin.
Next, discussion on the next steps for the Jonesy building. I've probably said this before in the meeting, but when the structural engineer was called to inspect the walls where the Jonesy building was, he was concerned because the interior walls, where there used to be interior walls, are exposed to the elements, which they're not intended to be. He was concerned about that weakening the walls. And he thought we should do something to take care of that situation. I mean, those walls are 3 stories high. And basically, they have no bracing on where the Jonesy building used to be. Ordinarily, when you have business after business after business, each one supports the next. And in this situation, with that building gone, there's nothing supporting those, what used to be interior walls.
So after speaking with Jim Thompson last week, and I think Gary, you've spoken to Jim
I've been
recently.
talking to Jim, but not about this.
No, I know, not about this. So he said, barn wired in that emergency catalyst grant that has been talked about before.
Yeah,
He would like to see some progress with that. And then he would take this Jonesy project back to Debbie Durham and possibly be put back on the table for that $100,000 grant, possibly.
no.
Nothing set in stone. We need to see some progress
So
of some of the other stuff.
that's consistent with the conversations I've been having, and that's why I haven't brought Jonesy's up. Because I felt we needed to determine what the final disposition was going to be on the emergency catalyst grant, and whether or not we would have to consider a financial commitment on our part, and whether we were willing to do that. And none of those decisions have been made. The information for the emergency grant for barn wired is in front of Jim Thompson now. He has all of the information that he has asked for as of 10 days ago. And I am waiting for a response from him to give us an idea of whether or not we have to invest any of our funds for some of the overhead that goes with the grant or not. My expectation is that if we do, it's not a big number, but not knowing the number, we can't do anything until we hear back. And I didn't really want to bring up Jonesy's until we had handled barn wired.
Sure, but we need to know, what the steps are, and that's what he told me what the steps
So
are.
you contacted him and asked, what's the procedure for moving forward with Jonesy's? Is
Yeah.
that what you did? Perfect. Okay, that's great. That's
Because
great.
before you joined, I'm trying to remember what the big turnover was, when we kind of new mayor, new council. This was an item that, we were talking about because part of the roof and everything is still laying in the basement of Jonesy's. That's as much of a nuisance as it had ever been. If it wasn't our building, we'd be talking to other people about cleaning it up. We've never cleaned it up. Well, I don't even know that we can clean it up without having somebody look at it and tell us how it has to be cleaned up, because I think there's a mixture of materials in there. The longer we go, Jimmy said, there's potential damage to everything. To me, we can't do anything until we get it cleaned up. Nobody can do anything until we get it cleaned up. I think we need to get it cleaned up so that we could maybe even just fill in the basement or figure that out and then go up. So I'm in favor of trying to use some of our funds in the lost account to get that taken care of, so somebody can move forward. So that it's, if we found somebody that wanted to buy it, it's not going to be another 8 months before they do something with it. And rather, it's just as able to go as possible. Do I know how much that's going to cost? No. It's not going to be free. and try and get somebody else to fix up what's there, or build there, you know, they just gonna have an additional cost to do all that, and to me, it means they would be less likely to want to move forward with it.
I'm very strongly in agreement with that. We gotta do something.
Sorry? But,
I'm very strongly in agreement with what you said. I think we have to do something to clean up this logic stuff.
I can't remember in previous conversations, did we have a conversation with Matt or somebody at French Reniker about what would be needed to give us a plan or to get it cleaned up?
I think it wasn't Matt, it was somebody else, a structural engineer. Who was it?
I have all, Chris Powers sent me all the information on it. You want to look at it some?
We took pictures and, yeah,
Tomatech.
somebody looked at it, yes.
So we're gonna have to,
Tomatech, there you go, yeah.
we're gonna have to spend some money to have somebody tell us what we need to do to, until we agree to pay that or do that, we're not gonna do anything done.
We can't take any action tonight. We could set up a committee to investigate this more, or one of our 6 committees be proper to take.
Would everybody be in favor of trying to get just a bid to see how much the plan would be? And then that would be something that,
What would be our end goal? To just clean it up and then, because I thought we talked before about cleaning it up and then building to where it was just a shell of a building.
potentially, I mean, we talked about it long enough ago that at one point in time, the $100,000 emergency funds were something that were gonna be available to us. It's just that now 3 years has passed and nothing, it's kinda hard to say something's an emergency 3 years afterwards.
You usually don't get any money unless you have a plan.
Are we trying to fix it up and sell it at like $1?
That's what my question is.
My goal would be get it cleaned up to the point where somebody else could do something with it, and then start figuring out what the options are. Somebody might be, you know, I might want to just fill it in, pave it over, put something on the sides just to protect it. I'm trying to remember, like a couple blocks north, a couple buildings north there where they did that, you know, they just put a new skin up on the outside. But what would be the point of doing that if somebody else wants to come in and put a basement in and, you know, rebuild it? So right now, I'm just aimed at, I just want to clean it up.
And there's a chance we could clean it up and spend all this money and then, which we're not obviously in the profit business, but, and then we go,
So
here's
if-
$1.
If it was my building right now, we'd probably say that there is a nuisance. And we would be
Yes.
saying, oh, you should need to clean that up, you need to take action.
I don't disagree with that. I just don't, I don't want to sell it to somebody for $1 after we spent $100,000. I don't know. I just want, I don't need a plan.
I think it would be worth, this is not my strong suit. It's probably more in your wheelhouse than anybody else's. I think it would really be worth the time. This might be this would be the catalyst for motion, but it would be worth the time to work, to see if we could locate a developer or work with a developer, whether it was one that was willing to come here or not, just so that we can figure out what the options are. I'm not even sure we know what the options are. I think there are some people in town who might. You know, if I was going to have a conversation along these lines that Ed's laying out, I'd go talk to somebody like Dan O'Rourke, who I think understands the mechanics, and see if we could develop a plan in concert with him or someone with that kind of a background. And I think that would really be worth the time, because then we would stop. When we have this, we've had this conversation 2 or 3 times, and we all want to do something, but we really don't know what to do. And
We know the thing that has to be done first is the most expensive part of it, obviously, and who does it and how it's done could make a lot of difference in the cost. I don't know that, you know, is it possible to work something out so that it's not the city cleaning it up? Because if it's not the city cleaning up, it's a lot cheaper.
If we can find somebody tomorrow that wants it in the
Well-
condition it is, that's great, but currently, whose name is it in?
It is an RNA, but I don't know how this grant thing's gonna, you know, play
I just
out.
wanna take a step, because the longer we sit around figuring out what the first step is, the the harder it's gonna be.
I think we owe it to ourselves to find out about this grant first. But,
That's fine,
I mean, it may be
I've said
just
my
as you
part.
say.
I've said my part. Who's going to do that?
Well, is it not, is not the initial steps in the works?
They are actually. I think,
And I know you're not,
For the other building?
Yeah, for
yeah.
warm weather. So
But-
this, the Jonesy's building still could be a while, but it needs to be, action needs to be taken on it.
Well, one decision, and I realize it's not on the agenda, so we have to schedule it appropriately. One decision is Jonesy's next in the queue in the mind, in our collective mind as a council? Is that the next thing we want to do? That we really haven't said that. My personal opinion is it's a good idea, but the whole council has to agree with it.
We're not voting, but
no.
at the safety of the other two buildings next to it, it almost has to be. Because otherwise, then pretty soon we're gonna have this one collapse, and then this one, and then we're just tearing the whole side down.
I think there's already visible evidence that that's happening.
Not that we have to commit to spending money,
Okay.
but could we get a quote?
I don't
I'm
understand.
assuming we wouldn't need that anyway
But yes.
before, for a grant purpose, right?
Wouldn't need what, I'm
We
sorry.
would still need what Ed is requesting be done if we were to
Even if
do the
just had a
grant process.
quote as to what we need to do and see if we can get some idea, they would have any idea, you know, what that would cost. Or
I
at
think
least-
getting a quote's a great idea.
Yes.
That doesn't mean we do anything, but we would know what it would cost if we did.
Or even those steps.
Yes, yes. And I really like the fact that you took the first step and you contacted him and asked him. So if at the appropriate time we can get authorization to start moving forward, I would be happy to work on a committee to do that.
I'll ask Chris Bowers tomorrow, if he has ideas who does that, to reach out to them to get the quote. Fair enough?
I would look at two options. One, making it just a level, just an open area.
Well, yeah, once we get in touch with
Or
whoever the
building it
contractor is
back
or the
up.
quote, we can,
That way we have options. Because like Stephanie said,
Makes sense.
if we spend
Yeah.
hundreds of thousands of dollars and clean it up, build it back up, and then sell it for $1, the city's not really profiting. But if we clean it up like we're supposed to, because we own it, and it's a level vacant lot now, the city's, you know, we're not gonna be as much out as money, I would assume.
Or if we, building on your idea, which I think is appropriate, if we can think about what is the long-term goal, back to your question, how do we avoid losing our shirts, essentially? You know, maybe there is a path where we end up with something that is sellable, that at least allows us to break even. Which I think
I
would be
think if we
better.
look for that one, we're gonna be 10 years from now, we're still gonna be looking for that one.
But we're just
We've
looking
done the
at,
high school, we've done, I think the only building I remember that we tore down and came out even was when the old Sigourney News Review building got torn down, that was on Jefferson Street, and it got assessed on taxes, and somebody who just buys up pages of delinquent taxes bought that page and paid the 19 or 20,000, and that's the only time I ever remember us coming out flush or even close to flush when it talks about nuisances.
It's probably our once in a lifetime, so.
But I mean, complete agreement that if we could, that'd be wonderful. I just don't want to be waiting for that opportunity to come and going farther in. Because nothing's cheaper tomorrow, nothing's whatever tomorrow, in general.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I understand.
Motion, forward motion is highly desirable, so.
Good discussion.
Right, thank you.
Can't vote, so good discussion. Next.
Well, again, I'll put my 2 cents worth in. I'm concerned about it, because if it collapses, one of those 2 walls collapse, we're going to have a huge mess on our hands. And those walls being exposed to the elements, will just keep getting weaker and weaker. So, okay. Keokuk County Economic Development, KCED report, Gary?
Right now, all of our energies are directed toward getting ready to open the farmer's market in June, first week of June, getting ready for the car show in July. Both of those are published and they're out there on the Facebook page and on the website. And right now, a great deal of energy is being put forth. Tomorrow night, we have the Keokuk County Child Care Network fundraiser in Keota. So it's all hands on deck to get that, for that to be carried off successfully. And see if we can get a foundation to open a daycare maybe as early as August. We'll see. It's an ambitious plan. It's one that we kind of got committed to and weren't quite ready for. But we're gonna, it's always good to have a deadline, sort of back to Ed's point. You've got a goal that you work toward. So we're pretty busy right now. That's all I have. Questions?
Okay, thank you, Gary. Park and Rec, I show nothing. Street sanitation. Discussion and possible approval of resolution number 2025-05-05 for temporary closing of parking spaces on the square for the pavilion project. This would be on Jefferson Street.
The farmer's market moved, right?
Yes,
Yes.
they're on.
So it's not
they're
on the
the
same site as that? Okay. That's fine.
Yeah, we already sort of discussed this once, didn't we? We
You
didn't
just didn't have a,
Yeah, we didn't have a resolution to
We
go
have a
along with
resolution,
it.
yeah. Yeah, so I would move that we approve resolution 2025-5 for temporary closing of parking spaces on the square for the pavilion project.
second.
Los Baker,
Yes.
Lentz,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Conrad,
Yes.
McLaughlin. Yes.
Discussion and possible approval of first reading of ordinance Title III, Community Protection, Chapter 3, Traffic Code.
Brent, is that the right wording?
Yes. So this is by the elementary school
Yes.
for the buses?
No, it's the other way.
It
So-
would be going
No, it's
west.
to the west.
Yes.
So they come around,
You've got trucks that go to the group home, you've got
yes.
trucks that go down to Care Center, and there's always cars parked right there, and they can't make that turn. And during school hours, it's pretty busy anyway. And,
school buses go down there too, don't they?
well, they go the other way. They go,
Oh, so this is to the west, not to the east?
yes.
Oh,
And it
okay.
would be for that first block, just to keep the traffic off there, so trailers can get around that corner and trucks.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's the one you turn and then book bang
Yeah.
your car. I would make a motion, we approve the first reading of ordinance Title 3, Community Protection, Chapter 3, Traffic Codes.
Second.
Los Baker,
Yes.
Lentz,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Conrad,
Yes.
McLaughlin. Yes.
Discussion and possible approval of first reading of ordinance Title 6, Physical Environment, Chapter 4, Utilities, Refuse Collection.
Well, we've had a lot of discussion about this. And the Street and Sanitation Committee has probably met 3 times in regards to this matter. I hope you've all taken a look at it because there's several changes here, but what we tried to do in committee was make the language make more sense, actually. There's some things that have been changed in the past, and it really didn't make a lot of sense. Some of the terms were a little vague as to what was being referred to, because even when you look at the beginning, there's, like several different references to what garbage is and refuge and rubbish and all this. And so we tried to make that all the language agree as much as possible. I do think there's 2 or 3 corrections yet that need to be made, and I'll mention those in a minute, but this came up in discussion. I believe I had even mentioned it in a previous council meeting about the fact that it's basically the dumpster situation had become quite a problem in town. We'd received numerous complaints about their locations, about what was being put in them and left setting for way too long, lids hanging open and that stuff blowing all over the place. Our ordinance originally, as drafted, was had directives regarding city dumpsters. And so, as that has changed even more recently, I mean, we've got a lot of dumpsters in town that are not city dumpsters, and so we need to address the situation. It's I've referred to it as a blight, and I think it is. In this ordinance, we address the matters of collection and disposal and administration of how we go about doing this. I want to suggest, and I'm hopeful that you've all read this, that we correct a couple more things. I don't know if anybody else had any. But we under definitions, we had changed household garbage just to say garbage. And that was under bullet point 2. 3 is we end by saying that rubbish includes all the refuse not falling within the term garbage except those objects too large to be placed in cans. But what we did do is do away with the definition of cans and had replaced by that in the next section we replaced cans with the words containers. But I think what we're trying to say there in number 3 is objects that are too large to be placed in bags, because we have the city bags that are used for what we had referred to as household garbage. We're just saying garbage. So I think cans should be replaced by bags. And then in 6-4-2, where it says duty to provide cans, that should say containers. I think we discussed that in committee. We just didn't make the change here in the language. And the other committee members can correct me on that if I'm wrong.
I think that's correct.
And then 6-4-7, which is second to last there, it shouldn't say refuge other than garbage, because we changed the wording in the section just to say garbage. So I think that should probably just be disposal. That's what's being talked about in that section. So therefore, you have to go back to the very beginning there, and you have the sections listed there. So 6-4-2 should probably just say duty to provide containers, and 6-4-7 should just probably say disposal.
And then 6413, you were changing cans to bags. The very last word, right?
I think so. I mean, you're on the committee, does that sound correct?
No, I agree. I was just trying to reiterate the changes.
Yeah.
So that when they adopted, they're all in there.
Otherwise, all the things that we discussed were changed in the
So,
WC.
so this reading under 646, the green highlighted. So if somebody wants to have a dumpster at their house, that isn't a dumpster owned by the city of Sigourney, say Cox, because that's what we're talking about, right? They're the only other dumpsters in
It
town.
could be anybody.
But
That's
anybody.
one.
So it says here that if a resident chooses to use an entity other than the city to have a dumpster available at the residence, the entity must register the location of the dumpster and pay the permit fee with the city. So has anybody talked to Cox, because they have a substantial amount of dumpsters?
We have to
And
go through the ordinance first, so.
I didn't hear you, sorry.
I was just gonna say, you have to do the ordinance first, right, to get that in line, and then talk to Cox.
Nothing's changed as of yet until we do change it, but what's your
The
question?
Well, I mean, this is-
current reading says the only containers you have need to be by a collector that's permitted by the city. The city is the only person currently that's approved to collect garbage in Sigourney.
I understand. What I'm saying is, has
So
anybody
currently,
talked?
They're all wrong. And we could start writing people up today for having them, or for somebody that's.
Well, I think our old ordinance, again, addressed that outside aid company has to have something with the city.
Yeah.
So it would be that company that would be in the wrong, not the individual that's renting the dumpster. So the city would need to go after that company, not the resident. As the
Depends.
withhold.
If some of it says you can't have it there for more than 30 days, there's all sorts of things in there.
I understand that. What I'm
That
saying
the
is,
owner is potentially in violation of.
so what I'm saying is anybody, is this common practice
What?
to have the entity pay a fee or register the dumpster within the city?
I think the other ones that I read, permits, required permits or approval of any entity that was going to collect garbage. It's the city's duty to provide that service. And so if somebody else wants to provide that service, then they have to be permitted to do it.
Okay.
Do we have an alternative? Sorry, you were done.
So nobody's reached out to Cox to
I have
ask them
not.
about this?
I have not,
Okay, that was my question.
sorry.
Because I have, and they're not gonna pay a fee to have the dumpster, which I don't think it's on them, it would be on the person that has the dumpster. So that would probably need change from,
Somebody else might want
if a resident chooses to have another entity other than the city provide them a dumpster, then that resident would need to probably register the dumpster and pay a permit to the city, not that company.
I think that other entity could always put that cost back on the resident. I think that resident's location where that dumpster is should be registered with the city.
Okay, but we're regulating residents in town, right? So I think we would require the resident that has the dumpster do that, not the company.
It was my understanding that the resident that has the dumpster would have to apply to the city for a permit to have it at their location.
So there's two permits then?
No.
No.
Well, what you just said, there would be. The entity would have to pay a permit, and then the resident would have to pay a permit for a dumpster.
Well, it was my understanding that Cox wouldn't pay the permit fee, it would be the individual They're requested.
These are two different, I'm getting conflicting stories here.
I have
It is
no-
clear, the language says, and I think Randy's already said the language probably needs to be cleaned up. You're right. It says the entity, and the entity in this case is defined as the provider, which is college.
Yeah,
So
that needs to be changed to the
so it needs to be
resident.
clarified, yes.
So my question is, do we offer something that people could get a dumpster from us instead? Because
Yes.
anytime I've heard about a dumpster, it was like a one-time thing, you can have it for a day but you couldn't put garbage in it, you could, I don't know what you could put in it, I was always very confused by what we offered. So I just like, I know, Apple Electric has a dumpster.
The residents can rent one from the city for a week at a time, and we pick it up, and it's a $35 charge. But you can do that. It's not a one-time.
Right, but these ones that have the dumpsters aren't just doing it for a week. I just,
And that's
That was-
problematic, yeah.
That was my next question, is dumpsters are to be emptied weekly? That's a bit extreme, I think, for a dumpster.
Sometimes.
Well, if they're permitted to only have it for a week, it
Where does it
was
say that
a
at?
requirement.
is that how long the permit is? Cause that
Yes.
doesn't say
That doesn't say that.
It just says a permit. I would read that as, I have a permit, cool, I'm good for as long as I wanna be,
I think
until I get the dumpster back.
the potential permit fee, I think it's spelled it out weekly, if I remember correctly.
Is that on here?
I think there's language on the permit itself, is there not?
Yes.
Not exactly.
That talks about it for a week.
Does it need to say it in the ordinance then?
The exception of.
Our goal was to try and get it so that there weren't dumpsters remaining undumped for an unspecified amount of time. And so that they
And
weren't
I understand.
continuously in a spot. Would that be?
That's fair, I think,
It sounds like you don't want dumpsters in town. That's what
It sounds
that's
like
what you're saying.
what we have is a problem with one person probably could get, if everybody did it like the person we may select, it would work just fine. But the guy on the next street is doing something completely different. 2 or 3 people are throwing their garbage in a dumpster and leaving it sit there for who knows how long. And it's the kind of stuff that draws varmints and flies and everything else. And then pretty soon the lid's hanging open on it and this is what's going on. We have to adopt a city-wide ordinance, and that's the difficult part, and that's why there's gonna be some heartburn over this issue.
So if it said 2 weeks, would you be happy? I mean, would you be in agreement?
I think once a month is probably sufficient for a dumpster.
Once a month, that's
At least
pretty,
like,
Yeah,
at a minimum.
once a month.
seems.
I mean, the reason why people get dumpsters at their residence is because they accumulate more trash than a husband and wife, a family. And they don't want the hassle of keeping that in the garage. So they have the dumpster. And then they dump it. I just feel like we're attacking residents, majority of residents that are using them. I agree, there are some that are abusing it. But you're attacking a majority of resident that is trying to properly dispose of garbage. It's a necessary evil. Garbage is garbage. I mean, if you go anywhere, you have to have a way to get rid of it. And I guess reading this, it's like we want to take dumpsters completely out of town and for those purposes. And I just don't think that benefits the city as a whole. I mean, people are trying to get rid of their trash, and now we're going to be messing with them. If you don't want the lids, if you don't want them overflowing, then put that ordinance in. Hey, they got to be dumped once a month. I mean, that's reasonable if somebody has a dumpster.
It already says you can't, the existing one already says you can't have it 30 days.
they go out for a week, or city.
No, the existing as it is, some places says you can't do it more than 10 days already. There's provisions that you're supposed to keep it all week. There's provisions that only the city can provide dumpsters currently. So we could just go out and just start writing fractions. And I think that's what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to come up with a permit system where it would allow them to do some of this stuff. Now, if they get a lot of trash, they can set it out on the, there's nothing that says you can't sit out 10 bags of trash.
There was actually, I think it's 5 bags is a maximum.
I don't think there's, really, because I mean, that's what the bags are. The bags are pay as you
That was
go.
in our old policy.
Okay,
Our
I was
old
gonna say, I
ordinance was
had
5 bags.
Well, that's why some people get a dumpster. It might only be just me and my husband, but we got a dumpster because we don't wanna deal with the bags. Like, because the bag system is trash. So,
I'm
There's
all in
both
favor on
sides.
regulating dumpsters, but I think what the intent here is to get rid of dumpsters completely for the residents that use them for their trash, for garbage, how you have it in here now, instead of household garbage. Because you can't put garbage in a city trash. Or you can't put, in a city dumpster, you couldn't put your household garbage.
So this is a really tough subject, right? There's no way we're gonna win this. So, I'd like to make a couple of suggestions just for consideration. Maybe one thing we gotta do is kind of step back and say, what is our goal? Our goal is appearance and health. Right? I think those are the two things. We don't want varmints, and we don't want the neighborhoods to be unappealing. Are there other goals that we have here besides those two? Besides appearance and health?
Well, I mean, that's from the top down, yeah.
Okay.
But, there's several pieces that are components of it.
But bear with me for just a minute though, because we need to work this out somehow. The only time I've ever heard somebody come up and complain about the potential of this, it's always driven economically. There's a perception that if they had to go to the bag system, that they would be penalized financially in some fashion. Those are the only complaints I've heard. I think other complaints exist where we're talking about the size of the container, the ability to accept. So can we work out the arithmetic? Is it worth, I'll phrase it as a question, is it worth working out the arithmetic of having a container, a dumpster on your property? And for the moment, I'm ignoring appearance. I'm not going to ignore it completely, but for the cost of having a container and the cost of the same volume of trash, and see if we can achieve financial parity for the residents. Is that worth doing? Question mark.
You know what, honestly, I have no desire to incentivize dumpsters.
So you want to de-incentivize, so that's another
I
goal.
didn't say that was my goal,
Oh, okay.
but I think the way it sits right now, it's a growing problem. The largest distributor, at least of dumpsters, other than the city in this town, is advertising for people to put their garbage in dumpsters.
That's true.
And that is not good.
Why not?
Because
I mean,
it's
they're
a
throwing trash in
issue
trash
for themselves.
receptacles. I mean, and then they're coming and picking it up and dumping it.
They're
If
not.
I was to
not
advertise to
effective.
do something else illegal in town, how would the sheriff's office think about that? I don't know what it is, but I'm offering a legal service in town. I'm publishing it in a local newspaper saying, hey, you can do this.
And I asked the question has anybody reached out to Cox to try to set up some sort of agreement for this? And the answer was no.
Correct.
So that's why I said the conversation should be with Cox can we come up with some sort of agreement?
Well, I
Is there some sort of can we work out a fee, a permit fee that, you know, you come in, what these stipulations are, yep, okay, if you're gonna have dumpsters in here, every dumpster has to be dumped once a month. You know, the lids have to be secured, that type of stuff. That's where I think that needs to be worked out here. I think we're putting the cart before the horse, just trying to get a policy out there or an ordinance to completely do away with
While we
dumpsters.
do that, are you in favor of enforcing the current ordinance?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
I guess, what current ordinance? Because I read it after the mayor read it to us, and I didn't see.
You read all of the
stuff
Xed
that-
out parts?
Yes.
Gary, he said while we're at it, are you in favor of enforcing the current ordinance that we have? That's what he said.
Okay. Thank you.
So basically saying that all the dumpsters in town are not permitted and not allowed if they're Cox ones
They're not registered.
and not registered.
We don't know where they all are. They haven't paid them fees.
So
I mean, what's the
where
point
does
of
it
an
say,
ordinance
where does
without
it say that
enforcing
at?
Can you flip to the next page?
Because it says, no person shall collect garbage or rubbish except for such persons if authorized by contract or permitted.
Okay.
Necessity of the permit.
Is Cox collecting garbage? Yes.
Okay.
Are
so-
they approved or contracted with the city?
Okay,
now?
so who is violating the ordinance then?
Everyone that has a dumpster.
Cox is,
Oh,
not everybody that has a dumpster. Again, where the conversation has to be with Cox.
Okay.
So that's,
And
Well,
just
we
tell
were
them
led
to
to-
stop, but then we're telling them, in that conversation, we're
that's
telling
where
them to
you're,
stop.
that's where the conversation begins to try to figure out,
Okay.
getting something in place. Am I wrong?
I
or-
think,
You can look at it either way.
Yeah. I also think we're overlooking the fact that we have a city collection system. We do. We have a system in place to collect garbage. And there's some I had someone says, well, I can't fit everything in the bag. Well, get a dumpster every once in a while then, and get rid of that stuff. I mean,
But you can't.
can't put-
city dumpster, you
The
can.
very,
As
City
the,
dumpster,
as
don't
the
do it.
ordinance
They
says
don't
right
have to.
now,
They just-
as the ordinance says right now, you can't put household garbage in the dumpster,
you said a dumpster.
in the
other
city
problem-
dumpster. So I couldn't get a city dumpster for my,
So we're not gonna
one-
vote one tonight based on what's going on.
no, but this is healthy. This is good discussion.
I'll vote for this one.
You're ignoring the health part of this, though.
I have a
That
dumpster
is
right
what
next to
the
my
co-
house and I have yet to see a rat. Like,
I mean, I used to have one too, and I never had any varmints running around my house.
That's
I've
right.
actually had more varmints with the trash bags sitting in my front yard.
It's because the varmints are hungry, you're not feeding them.
I mean, so I'm,
I've heard from a couple of people that have raccoons getting into their
No.
dumpster on a regular
It's not
basis.
good.
and they're not getting in the city trash bags,
Sit down
they're
overnight
sitting out overnight.
or,
Well,
I
it's
mean,
just overnight.
So,
That-
no, it's
we
not.
wouldn't
No,
hear.
it's not. There are dumpsters
All I'm
that are
saying
bags.
is that this looks like we're trying to get rid of dumpsters completely, and our goal is to keep the town clean, right? If you take away the receptacles that people put trash in, is that going to make us better, or is that going to make us worse? And I don't think that taking dumpsters away is going to clean the town up anymore. I mean, it's trash. It doesn't, I mean, you can't bedazzle a trash can. I mean, it is what it is. It's a necessary evil. I also think that, you know, the secured lids is one thing that you have in here. There needs to be something in this ordinance that addresses what if somebody comes behind the city hall and throws trash in that dumpster. We don't have any, or a business. We have calls at the sheriff's office all the time about that. If you're looking at changing an ordinance, there should be some sort of language in there that says that's a violation of city ordinance, that, you know, if you don't own the trash, or if you're not paying for the dumpster, you can't utilize the dumpster.
Sheriff's just gonna get more complaints for it being dumped into the ditches out in the country, outside of the city limits.
And I'm thinking, well, how do you monitor something like that, on who is putting
Well,
those?
we dig through the trash and we find any kind of paperwork in it.
Oh, yeah.
That has a name in it.
People throw stuff away, they throw everything away, they throw it there. When my mom's farm had the farm, I would be able to say, hey, Bob.
But all I'm saying is, if we're going to be addressing this ordinance, that language should be in there as well. That way, it could be a civil penalty, and Doug can go and enforce that. Because there are businesses in town that have made complaints about people throwing trash in the dumpster. And then, then you gotta think about when you put this ordinance in place, what gives a city employee the right to go on a private property to inspect a dumpster? I'm just thinking, because if, say somebody, the way you have it, if a dumpster's not dumped weekly, how are we going to enforce that?
Well, some of them are pretty easy since they're sitting out between the sidewalk and the street.
Okay.
Or in the alleys
Okay.
and all that, see, that's, again, part of the problem with this. You do agree that we need to do something, right?
But in your changes, you don't address that. You don't address the problem with the alleys and.
It's listed in, where's that about the hard surfaces and all that? It's not.
That's gonna be
But
on
what
the,
he's asking is what gives him the authority to walk past our
I know,
terrace and open up the lid and see if
Yeah,
it's clean and see if it's been dumped or see if it hasn't been dumped. Which is probably why we were looking at, if it has to, if you're only be there a week and it's gone, then there's not a question about that. Because I don't think that, it was not my goal when we were writing these, I don't know that there's anybody else's goal to get rid of dumpsters. I don't think if we would have wanted to do that, we would have put the provisions in there for trying to permit dumpsters, whether it should be the person getting the permit or the collector getting the permit. We were trying to come up with some other alternative. But we're not gonna reach an agreement tonight.
No.
If you wanna write down all of your thoughts and submit them, that way we're not missing one of them. And if anybody else wants to too, I mean, when we're sitting in committee meeting, it's like any other one, it's three of us, we're discussing what we're discussing.
I think there's enough question, we should put this aside for another time.
Do you want us to make a motion to table it? Make a motion that we table, the discussion of any possible approval of first reading of ordinance titled 6, Physical Environment, Chapter 4, Utilities, Refuge, whatever, collection.
And taking that, it's gonna come up with the next one. I don't know if we're gonna have a new reading ready for the next one.
Table it to the next meeting? Is that what you're saying? I know we want.
I don't know that you have to table it. If you know that it doesn't come up for a vote, it doesn't come up for a vote. If it comes up for a vote and it's no, then we're at zero, we're at scratch anyway, and there's no deadline.
So,
Okay, so there's no decision on this tonight,
Next.
we'll just let it go with that? Work on it.
I'm not even making a motion. So,
so we can just do no motion?
Okay,
we would need a motion to not approve this, and then,
well, what I'm searching for is, and we don't have a motion to table, but we're voting on it, we're still.
no,
I'm searching for, how do we actually come to a resolution? What parameters can we set that will allow us to work to a decision that the council can't vote on? I mean, we can vote on anything, but something that has a reasonable chance of passing. What do we need to kind of lay out as guidelines? Can we articulate that?
I guess personally, my opinion is if somebody wants to have a dumpster to get rid of trash, they should be allowed to do that. And if the city, if we want to regulate how many times it's dumped, and if they've got to pay a monthly fee to keep that dumpster there, we can discuss that. But I don't know.
What about appearances? Because that's one of the drivers here. We want neighborhoods to be pleasant, you know. Do we want?
You're never going to make any kind of trash receptacle look good,
You
right?
can put it behind a
It's
fence.
trash.
You can put, now, if I think about upscale neighborhoods in Florida, right, I could drive through those.
We're not in
They've all
Florida,
got
it's completely different.
No, it's not, actually. They've all got big trash cans sitting out in front of their houses. You know, multi-million-dollar houses, and they got these big blue trash cans sitting out there. So all I'm trying to understand is it our objective to get them out of sight or not? I'm just looking for a guideline.
I mean, I guess
I
I'm
don't
not
think that looks any
looking.
worse than some of the houses you have on the main streets that we have issues with, so.
I think that's one of the considerations.
Because, you know, we could pass an ordinance that says that they need to be rainbow colored and have sparkles and a flag on them if we want, if that's what, if that's the
I vote
standard.
against that.
You would vote for that? So,
To
I
me,
mean,
it
I don't
sounds
know
like-
if that's feasible.
To me, it sounds like the three of you that aren't on the committee need to send all of your suggestions to the committee so that we can try and put them all together at one time and see if we can rewrite it and come up with something that can accept.
And that is a great suggestion, since we've already met about 3 times on this already, so.
So, on that, that is an idea for all commit, like, the whole dog thing, I would have loved to have given suggestion, like, I know it's a committee for a reason, because we can't be on all 6, but we don't know anything that's talked about.
We can have a
so-
special meeting.
I just mean, like, I don't know anything you're talking about on any meetings I'm not a part of until they come to council and you're like, hey, we talked about this and decided it. It's just hard to
True.
not have a reaction like I had last time because I had no preface to there being a dog problem.
But if we
Or there
didn't
being a
do
trash problem.
committee meetings, every council meeting would be like this.
It's fun.
I agree with you.
I just mean, like, if you would have said, hey, we're gonna have a meeting about the trash, do you have any opinions? I would have been like, hey, yeah, these are my 6 small things. You could have had your meeting and thought about those, and this probably would have, my thoughts would have been avoided. I don't know about Adam.
so we've strayed into something that's not really.
No,
on the-
yes, I'm sorry.
And no, don't be, but I think it's worthy of discussion from a committee standpoint, like a preview.
Yeah. Because even Parks and Rec,
And
I would like.
maybe that's something that we should put on the agenda to discuss, should there be a committee preview? Committee finding preview or something like that.
So this
What if we
ordinance
just
just
shared,
needs
if
to
we
go
just
back
all
to the
shared the
drawing board,
agendas?
right?
Yes. And everybody could come if they had a stake in it.
Oh, we can't come, because then you
come,
can't.
but if I share
Oh, yeah, cool.
if I share with you the agenda, you would know what we're gonna discuss, and then you could talk to
Even just send an
whichever
email
one
to
of
Ashley.
us.
And you can monitor your
input.
position.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Disagree, I'm.
Because your
going
point
off
is,
track.
your point is really well taken, you're right. And I've had that happen a time or two in the last couple of years where I didn't see one coming.
Yeah. And it's hard, I mean, I'm sure I'd be the only no vote on a few things that we vote
So
on.
back to this, do we have to
Yes.
vote on this or just leave it alone?
If you don't vote on it, nothing happens.
We don't even
If you
table
vote
it.
on it and say no, then it doesn't get passed, then it's dead. That's where it's dead. I don't know, apparently it'd be like 3-on-3 and whatever Jimmy would do for the vote tonight.
So then
Would
we
be
just
what
don't
it
vote
would
on it.
be. You know, nobody's pushed it, nobody has to.
So we, I think.
Discussion and possible approval? No, discussion and possible approval of first reading, so that's a no.
We're
So-
not having a first reading.
So do we need to make a motion to table, or we just get to go to the next thing?
No,
I'm
we
so
can just
sorry.
go-
I don't think
we
we
can
have to
just
do
go to the
anything.
next-
Okay, I just want, I'm
If you
sorry.
table it,
We have to bring it
table
back up the
then
next
it's gonna
time.
be, and it's gonna remain
Okay.
on the agenda.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
If
that-
it's not seconded, there can be no action on it.
We can just.
No motion,
It doesn't
there can be
eliminate it.
if there's no motion, there can be no action.
Well, there was a motion.
And we haven't even gotten to
I
that.
didn't
there's
finish
no
that,
more.
I didn't finish that, that was interrupted.
Let's
We
move
sent
on.
that. Next.
Next, this could be another interesting one. Discussion and possible decision on the 28E contract with Keokuk County Recycle Center. This has to be resolved by the end of May because it will automatically renew for a year. If we want to keep it, that's fine. It's $1,900 a month. And by last count, there was between 50 and 60 households that use the recycle center. And we're paying $1,900 a month for that. And if my figures are right, we're the only city in Keokuk County that is supporting it. If we don't renew it, and we drop out of using it, no one in the city can use the recycle center. And I've been told that it probably would go away if that were to happen.
Well, that's the facts.
And right now, they're saying 90% of the recycles are just put in the trash anyway. They're not recycled.
We're not getting much bang for the buck.
No. And I feel like we are supporting it majorly because none of the other cities are putting anything.
I used to like to
Some
recycle,
of the
it
cities
felt
are
good,
using it though.
but then they started throwing most of it in the landfill anyway, so.
So my question is, we're spending $1,900 a month, which is however much a year, and we say no. The uproar is going to happen if we don't then give them something else, not necessarily trash, not necessarily recycle, just something else to prove the money, or lower their tax. Because they're like, you got rid of this service that I used once in a blue moon.
Okay, so we're just
I just-
talking, we're talking actually about recycling. And you have an
Agreed.
opportunity to address that in the next item on the list, really, because we can make a difference there. If we do away with recycling, we can make a difference in the category.
But you have to do one before you can do the other, right?
Pardon?
But how would I know that without a discussion about the first thing? Because right now, you wanna not continue this. Whatever,
Did I say that?
you're doing great. Having a great time here. What motion are you making?
Well, this has to be decided.
It does. So I will make a motion to discontinue our contract with Keokuk County, because we need to do that this evening, if it is not to be effective for the next fiscal year. It'll automatically renew if we do not. So I'm making the motion, we discontinue our recycling contract with Keokuk County.
Recycle center or the whole county?
We have a contract with Keokuk County.
Do we have a second?
I said no to me.
So I'm really struggling with this thing because the two are related. I agree with you on, we've talked about this, I agree with you on the points. And I'm referring to the previous topic and the one that follows.
The one that follows is the one that's more relevant.
But how would we vote on this without the information for the next one? I don't,
There-
like,
So what we were in favor of was if you voted that you were going to not spend 22,800 or whatever,
It's almost 23,000 a year.
then instead of doing an automatic 5% increase at the next agenda item, we would take out this year's increase and just leave it the same. So there'd be no increase in sanitation for this one, and then just leave the 5%, as it would be for the next, I don't remember, 4 years, whatever's remaining in the ordinance.
Which we can revisit every year. if, you know.
Okay, that was
I
very
just-
helpful information.
Again, with this topic, I think that, what we had a survey of 3 weeks, I don't think we have enough, I don't know how you can judge in a 3-week survey that only 61 people used the recycle center. I think there should have been a lot longer time frame to see how many residents actually used it. I mean, it wasn't even for a month. And
For my
it would
information-
seem like it was just, give us some numbers, so we can go and make this decision.
For my information, they did keep track of it for a while. This was,
For 3
not
weeks.
recently, but,
3
For
weeks.
3 weeks. We got the
well,
paper.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about previous to this, when it's been discussed. And when the number of households using it got down to 70, this is going to count. The latest information I had, and it was before this 3 weeks. There's 50 to 60 people using it, and that's a lot of money for that.
I agree, it's a lot of money. I just don't feel that we should pay Sigourney 1 in 16 cities for the whole
Well,
county.
but those 16, those other cities aren't using it. And if they are, they're getting charged. to
We're
use
barely
it.
using it.
No, they cannot use it.
We're barely
So
using it,
you
about
can't-
10%
you
of our
can't use that.
households.
So
We're
we're
the
not
only city
paying for
using
them
it.
to use it.
They're not paying
It's
because they don't
just us.
use it.
But if the other cities were using it, we would be paying less.
What do you mean?
I don't know that other cities aren't using it. I mean, in
Their
the
permit
county.
that they have is just for like the city or.
So I use it, I mean, I go out there, I don't have a permit.
You're a city resident. We pay for you to go use it. People in Richland aren't coming over to Sigourney to recycle their recycles.
I still think $1,900 is a lot of money per month. to pay
It's more than a
for
lot,
recycling.
it's too much. We're funding the thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
you gotta
want
look at
to
the facts, we're
recycle,
funding it.
But I don't want to pay the $1,900, so I'm mixed.
So
But
do
really, the
we
majority
have
of
a
the reason
motion
why
on the floor?
they-
No.
I
Yes,
made a
we
motion.
do. It's a motion,
Oh,
but we
yes.
haven't seconded.
So I second the motion, if for no other reason than to force the third issue. So we can vote it up or down.
Is it
I'll
fair,
speaker.
is it fair to ask Donnie and Brett
Yes.
to weigh
You're
in
in the
on
middle of a motion.
this?
Let's,
No. Or wait. You made a motion to.
to discontinue
Discontinue.
the contract.
Okay, I just want to make sure I was voting for it. No.
No.
Okay.
Schultz,
Yes.
Clark,
No.
Conrad,
No.
McLaughlin.
No.
No, this is useful, this is useful.
So it's 4 no's and 2 yeses?
4 no's and 2 yeses.
Okay. Next, discussion possible approval of recommendation regarding sanitary rates, sanitation rates.
That's-
I don't think we can do this with you.
Sorry, that's.
From our conversation, if we didn't do away with the recycling center, we weren't going to do a modification of the reading.
Correct,
We were just gonna leave it the same at the 5%.
correct.
Which was the decision we made last year.
Correct, yeah. So it's a 5-year,
Right.
5-year thing. So we don't have to vote on that.
We didn't have to vote on it prior, so I don't think so.
We did it for water and sewer.
We didn't for water and sewer, exactly. It was just a informative.
We would only vote on it if it was going to modify it that's in place.
Okay, that's too bad.
Well,
That's
the
that.
supervisors for Keokuk County want an answer on what we're going to do.
Well, it's gonna renew because they just voted
It's
no.
going- Right, it's going to
So
renew.
we're on
but
to the
they-
next one now. We're on to sanitation rates.
Okay, well, we started
People on
talking
water,
about the two of them.
wastewater.
I'll bring it up in,
We don't have to vote.
Right.
Oh, I guess.
I was just going to ask, should I go over and let them know what our decision has been?
It automatically renews.
It doesn't make any difference. If we don't notify them, it continues. If they don't notify us, it continues.
If you consider that a courtesy, Jimmy, go ahead, but, you know, it's going to automatically renew.
Okay. Well, Dean could call me and ask me a couple weeks ago.
You could have been here. You could have been here at any one of our city meetings.
It'll be in the minutes.
Okay. I'm sorry for interrupting. Okay. Sanitation rates?
Yeah.
Oh,
We don't
Not
have,
gonna do anything.
Not gonna do it. Okay, water and wastewater, discussion possible approval of French Reniker Associates to review Sigourney water tower issues and provide preliminary cost estimates. Johnny, you want to fill us in on this?
Very quickly here, in 2021, when we did the big water main and we took the tower offline, we had an independent company come in, look at it. We need to do some OSHA upgrades to it. It needs a little bit of work done to it. So we've been saving for several years. We would like to have French Reniker and Matt Walker put together a plan and get some preliminary cost estimate on what this is going to cost us.
it's gonna take them a year to get us some
So we need to pay for this review, correct?
It'll be a service agreement type thing, so he can get moving on it. I think he's already got several things figured out, so.
That way when whoever goes up there and fixes the railings would have a plan. When whoever would replace or check a valve would have a plan. So we would have an overall thing that says, okay, you've done, you gotta do these 47 things, and this is how you're supposed to do it.
It'll be a book of proposed improvements, and we would like to get going on it, so we put it out for a bid this year to be done next year. And we've been saving the money for 10 years, right? We've been saving quite a bit.
There's like, gonna be 325
Yeah, 3.
or something.
Yeah.
300.
If you have any paint schemes you want to come up with, let us know.
rainbows and sprinkles, or blow and sparkles,
And don't forget the flag.
and the flags.
Same with the, now, don't let the dumpsters in the water tower.
Make a motion, we approve, French Reniker Associates to review Sigourney water tower issues and provide preliminary cost estimates.
Second.
Postbaker,
Yes.
Lentz,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Conrad,
Yes.
McLaughlin.
Yes.
Okay, public safety, I'm showing nothing. Finance, nothing today. Human resources, nothing. City clerk. Nothing. Public input.
Just a point of clarification, which building is the Jonesy building you were talking about earlier?
The one with the graffiti.
The painted front over here.
Between barn wired and bees.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Any other public input? Entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Postbaker,
Yes.
Lentz,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yep.